You want to live a life on fire and on mission. You want to be filled with such conviction and drive that you stop caring about what anyone thinks. You want to face each day alive, authentic, and fully present in every moment. With your wife, with your kids, on the street, at work. You want to bring yourself to the table and to stop bringing the watered down, nice, what everyone wants version of you. You want that self to be a man who is burning in passion for Jesus, unafraid to bring his kingdom to anyone in your path, no matter what it costs you. You want to love the one in front of you without fear, without needing love back, and without reserve. You want to husband well. You want to father well. You want to shepherd your life well. You want to be a safe pillar for anybody around you. You want to experience God for real, to not just believe, but to know that he's got you and that he'll show up on your behalf, that he'll show up through you. You want to get to the end of your race and say, yep, I gave it everything. Jesus, you know I'm all in. And you want to know just how to get there. Welcome to Man Warrior King. I'm your host, Matt Halleck. Congratulations. You're among the violent taking the kingdom by force. You're among the chosen answering the call to rise above yourself. You're in the forge being stripped down and strengthened, and you will rise stronger, solid, unshakable. You are a man. You're a warrior. You are a king. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Man Warrior King podcast. I'm your host, Matt Halleck, the founder of the Man Warrior King movement, author of the book DNA of a Man. And this morning, I am very excited and honored to have a special guest with us this morning. His name is Keith Gregoire. He is the author of the book, The Good Guy's Guide to Great Sex. He and his wife, Sheila, also run a podcast called the Bear Marriage Podcast. They do live events all over Canada and North America and the US. And they have been working very hard to help to heal and rescue marriages in the church and presumably outside the church. But I know that the audience is largely church-going people who have been hurt, possibly told not the most helpful things from the church about marriage and all of that. So their work is very, very powerful in my opinion. And I will in a moment, Keith, I'll tell you kind of my backstory with your guys' work too, and how it's influenced us. But what am I missing? What else should our audience know about you and what you guys do?
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here. I guess the other thing I would add to it just is I am a physician, so I'm a pediatrician. So the other thing I think I bring is sort of an idea of a scientific kind of evidence-based thing, because there's a lot of opinions out there about how we should do marriage and a lot of opinions about sex. And a lot of people write books saying what they think about things. But I think what we bring is more of an issue of, well, what does the evidence actually show? Because Sheila's done some pretty massive work, which I think you mentioned in one of your previous podcasts, where she's surveyed over 20,000 women, and we surveyed over 3,000 men for the Good Guy's Guide.
Yeah.
And so this is not just our opinion, our thoughts. This is about what actually is shown to be effective, what actually works in marriages.
Wow. So that scientific approach adds a lot of oomph to what you guys are doing, because it's not just opinion, and it's not just, okay, I'll be honest. Sometimes I feel like some of the marriage advice out there comes from people who are almost coming up with new doctrines, new theologies to help make them feel better about the dysfunction in their marriage. But what you're saying is that you're actually getting out there, getting your hands dirty in the trenches, figuring out what works for people, and that's where what you're doing comes from.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so to give you an idea of how we first found you, it was, I don't know, it was a long time ago now. It was many years ago. My wife and I were in a very difficult place in our marriage. And I think it was probably before you guys had your podcast. It was like my wife found Sheila on To Love, Honor, and Vacuum. But it was like early days, I think, and I don't know exactly how long she had been doing that before we found her, but she stumbled upon, was it like the 31 days to great sex or something like that? It was like a blog series. Yeah.
Yep.
And so we were having a very difficult time in our sex life. And I will say that was a combination of stuff going on for her and a lot of stuff going on for me. But her finding that really made a mental shift happen for her. It wasn't the end of our transformation story, because like I said, there was a lot that I had to do as well. But as far as what was going on in her mind, it really helped to get her more comfortable with being a sexy wife, and wanting that to be part of our marriage in a way that was not just her always feeling obligated because I had made her feel obligated. Mm-hmm. So we found you guys way back then. More recently, which is the podcast episode you would have been hearing, my wife read The Great Sex Rescue, and we were talking about a lot of topics in there. But how did you and Sheila get into this realm, this journey about helping marriages, but then also, like, let's be honest, more specifically, a lot of it is about sex. How did you guys get into that?
Well, our story is similar to yours in that we started out not doing well. and early on, we had a lot of difficulty with sexuality in our marriage. I would say the difference between you as a couple and us as a couple is, I think most of the issue in our situation was with me. Okay. And I'll just be honest, I had a lot of entitlement. I brought a lot of a sense of entitlement to it. And I think that's something that unfortunately in the church, we have tended to produce in men. We have taught things in the church that, sex is a need for men that women don't have. And therefore women need to give it to them so that they don't watch porn or stray.
Yeah, right.
Now, that's the overall message that we have in the church. Yep. The other message that I, internalized a lot was the wait till you're married. Like, don't you dare do anything before you get married. Wait till you're married. And then once you get married, it will be amazing and perfect and wonderful.
Yeah.
And then when we got married, Sheila suffered from vaginismus, which is a very common sexual dysfunction disorder where women actually have pain during intercourse. And it's twice as common among conservative religious people, but most people have never even heard of it.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And it's a huge issue. And, I wish that I could tell you that my response was kindness, patience, understanding what she was going through, selflessness, all those things. But I have to admit that my mentality was, now I'm married, I've waited for sex, and now I can't have it. And I felt like I had been robbed.
Right.
And I'm ashamed to say that now, but I don't think I'm alone among men. I think that there's been a lot of messages given to men in the church, like, you deserve this. This is your right. Once you're married, she has to give it to you. And we've unfortunately hurt our wives a lot by buying into that message. And I was one of those men that hurt my wife. The good news is we didn't end there. And God got a hold of me. The specific verse he used was the one that says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And I realized that my love for my wife, it could not be dependent upon her performance in any aspect of our relationship, not just the bedroom, not anywhere. Like, I had to love my wife selflessly as Christ does, regardless of what I got out of it. And that's what started the journey of my changing my attitude. And I've been really trying to, I think the Good Guy's Guide is sort of like my letter to a younger me saying, I wish someone had told me early on when that happened, yes, I know you're disappointed. Yes, I know it's not what you expected, but it's not all about you, dude. Like, think about your wife in this too. And how can you together work to make this a good thing for both of you?
Right. And that, so for me in our marriage, it was probably less of the external like teaching, like, oh yeah, this is more for me than it is for you, that caused my dysfunction. It was more like when we were dating, and this is common, right? We were dating and it was like it was all we could do to barely slide into home plate, just barely made it before our wedding day happened. We were all over each other, and we get married, and that continued for a while. I brought so much garbage in because I had been doing pornography earlier on, and I like confessed, quote unquote, to my wife about it, but I lied to her. I made it sound better than it was. And I didn't actually tell her the full truth about it until like a few months into our marriage, where I was like, I had known I should tell her during our engagement, before we were engaged. And I just was too scared. So she had that to work with. And then the fact that we were all over each other before we got married, and a couple of years in, we had our first kid. And then it felt like I was getting replaced in my mind. This is not a comment on my wife at all, but in my mind, I felt like that. And I did, and she would tell you her desire for sex, and it just kind of, it all kind of went different places after our first daughter was born. And so for me, I definitely knew about those different ideas that sex is more for the guy and stuff like that. But for me, I was like, what changed? You're not the same person that you used to be. And so then I became very selfish with it all, and it's all about me and poor me, please have sex with me. And as we know, that's not going to result in anything good. So thankfully, I am thankful that my wife has such a high desire for a good sex life, even in those early years. Even when I was not producing the atmosphere for it, she would have wanted it, but she didn't know why she didn't. And it was bothering her, and it was frustrating to her too. So we were like on the same page, but different pages at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
So what you said about that messaging, it's more for the man than for the woman. It's a need that he has, but not her. That reminded me of a part in your book where you talk about the do not deprive one another verse. Tell me about how we get that verse wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's a verse that's used to basically, beat women over the head with, into cajoling them into having sex with their husbands.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard that. I've heard that preached from the pulpit about how it's important for us to not deprive each other. Sex is so important in a marriage, so therefore you need to do it. And this is harmful in a lot of ways because, well, first of all, the assumption is that the man has the higher drive and the woman has the lower drive. And so it's the woman who has to give more to the man. There's a lot of couples where it's the other way around, and those people feel really like, what's wrong with us? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, sometimes it's the woman that has the higher drive. That's not a big deal.
Right.
But even in the situations where the wife does have the lower drive, telling her you're obligated to do it more, that's not going to result in a fulfilling sex life. It's going to result in a whole lot of duty sex, which no guy is really going to appreciate and really want. And so he's going to continue to be unhappy. So he's going to make her feel more guilty. So she's going to treat more in herself and not really enjoy it, but do it because she has to. And it's this vicious spiral of things getting worse and worse, as opposed to the mentality where we say sex is something that's supposed to be for both of us.
Yeah.
So if you look at that verse, it's actually interesting. It talks about the woman first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we think that's a verse that's used to make women have sex more.
Yeah.
In our book, we talk about the story of Tracy and Doug. Can I tell you the story of Tracy and Doug?
Do.
So this is an analogy for you guys out there listening. So just imagine you're a couple that's been told it's really important for a married couple to go to restaurants and eat a meal together at a restaurant. It's something that builds a marriage. So Tracy and Doug believe this. They go once a week to a restaurant. They think this is what we're supposed to do as a married couple to make our marriages strong. And they get to the restaurant and they order their food and they're talking. And Tracy's appetizer arrives. French onion soup. Cheese is dripping. Awesome. Smells great. She starts scarfing it down and loves it. Nothing comes for Doug.
Yeah.
A little while later, Tracy's main course comes. steak and peppercorns with like this mushroomy, creamy sauce, big, huge, loaded baked potato. It's all awesome. She's loving it. It's great. Just perfect, cut, perfect, cooking.
Yeah.
Nothing comes for Doug. Finally, Tracy's dessert comes. Chocolate molten lava cake. She puts the spoon in, the chocolate's dripping out. It's amazing. Doug's chicken wing appetizer finally comes.
Yeah.
He scarfs down one. He scarfs down a second one. He's picking up his third chicken wing, and his wife goes, "That was the best meal I've had in a long time. That was so awesome. I love doing this with you. Let's go home now." And she grabs him by the hand, and off they go. And Doug's looking back at his half-finished chicken wing appetizer and going, "Okay, is this what eating at restaurants is all about? Well, I guess it's important to her. Maybe I should keep doing it." But if they do this months and months, do you think Doug's going to love going to restaurants every week? No, right. Of course not. But we've done the same thing with sex and women, right? I mean, women take longer. Women need some workup. Women need a lot of care to enjoy the sexual experience. But we as men just barrel through and go, "Well, that was fun. That was a great," quotes, "meal. I loved that." And we expect her to go for the conversation and go hungry.
Right.
In the analogy, right?
Yeah.
So I think that if the one thing if I could say to Christian men is we need to change our definition of sex. Because we often think of sex when I say sex, we think of a very specific aspect of sex. Like if I said to you, "Did you have sex last night?" Don't answer that. Like that's rude. But like if I said, "Did you have sex last night?" Your thought is, you're thinking of sexual intercourse. That's what people think of when they think of sex. But if that's what our definition of sex is, then yes, 1 Corinthians 7 can be used as a weapon because it says, "Do not deprive your spouse of sexual intercourse." Right?
Yeah.
But what if sex is meant to be more than that? And what we argue in the Good Guy's Guide is that sex is meant to be anything that you and your wife do together sexually to bring yourself pleasure, bonding, closeness, all that kind of stuff. It's much more than just the act of intercourse. And if we think about that, if we think about the fact that women are biologically designed, I don't know how explicit you're allowed to be in this program, but women are women are biologically designed with a part of their body, the clitoris.
Yeah.
Its only role is to feel pleasure. It has no other role. Right? Women are designed to be able to have multiple and prolonged orgasms.
Yeah.
Right. And yet we think that men are being deprived.
Yeah.
When women aren't getting the fullness of their sexual experience.
Right.
But I think we as men need to take a step back and going, when we feel like we're not getting enough, what am I providing to my wife? Am I making this a good experience for her?
Yeah.
Would I want to go to that restaurant? Would I be that Doug that would want to go to that restaurant? Well, of course not. But what if I got the full meal? What if I got all that stuff? Then I'd be more interested. And so the same thing I say to guys who feel like they're not getting enough of their wives is, well, what kind of experience is it for your wife? Right? And are you doing everything you can to make it a good experience for her? For instance, do you know that we have a 47-point orgasm gap in married couples in the Christian church?
I'm sure it's probably one of the statistics that my wife read to me from the Sex Rescue, but
yeah, and it's in the Great Sex Rescue, and we also quote it again in the Good Guy's Guide.
Okay.
When you ask the question, do you orgasm regularly during sex? 95% of men say they almost always or always orgasm.
Yeah.
The number for women is 48%. It's a 47-point gap.
That's huge.
Yeah. Women only answer, "I almost always or always orgasm during sex," 48% of the time.
Wow.
I can't imagine guys being content with a sex life where they're having sex regularly, but they only orgasm 48% of the time.
Right.
And then they're left hanging and you're supposed to go about your day. Guys wouldn't tolerate that, but somehow we think that our wives should tolerate that.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do a better job as Christian men of making it a good experience for our wives and not assume that they should do it out of obligation, but do it because, hey, it's awesome and they enjoy it. And I make sure they enjoy it. And yeah, of course they want to because it feels great.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, women are uniquely biologically designed for specific pleasure more even than a man is. And we have this verse in Corinthians that says, hey, it doesn't say women don't deprive your husbands of all the sex he wants. It says husbands and wives, or wives and husbands, don't deprive one another. So we have this idea, this idea being presented by God that sex is for both of us. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I teach my guys, because the guys that I work with tend to get into a place in their mind where they get discouraged and depressed because I guess my wife just doesn't want it that much. And I don't want duty sex, but some is better than none. And so when we're in that realm, I also tell them, hey guys, like, look at the Song of Solomon. Who starts out expressing desire? It's the woman.
Yes.
The woman appears in that book to be far more sexually charged than the man even does.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's God's desire. That's God's intention. So rather than go down this bad path that you're talking about of settling for, okay, well, the obligation message, you've got to do this. Maybe we need to look at ourselves and be like, how do I need to man up in order to create this environment for my wife to flourish into what she's meant to be? So I call men to come up higher, to up level their manness and stop being little boys.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I think a lot of guys feel like they're begging for sex or demanding sex.
Yeah.
But not getting sex that is mutual, enjoyable, pleasurable for both.
Right.
And that's what we want. We want mutual, enjoyable for both. That's what we want.
Sure. And go ahead.
I was going to say, so I, for manning up for guys, I think I agree 100%. That's where we should be focusing our time rather than cajoling women.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is a lot of times guys need to realize that it may not even be your fault that your wife doesn't want sex. It may not be that something you've done. Sometimes it is something you've done. Like I shared earlier, my selfishness early on in our marriage. But sometimes it's not anything you did. Sometimes it's just the messages that she's received and that she's internalized. And so the way you man up in that sense is you help her to identify thought patterns that are unhealthy that she's internalized and work through them and have a healthier way of looking at that. The Great Sex Rescue is excellent for that. I mean, it talks basically what happened what Sheila did with the Great Sex Rescue is she surveyed 20,000 women and she basically asked them a bunch of questions about your marital satisfaction. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. People don't mind answering those kind of questions. That's all great. Sure. Then she got up close and personal and she asked them a bunch of questions about their sexual satisfaction. That's a little bit more intense, once she got them going. And then she asked a bunch of questions about, have you ever heard this taught in church? And then have you believed it? And she gave a series of beliefs that are taught in church. And then what she did was she compared the answers. So she found people who believed the message. For instance, I'll give you a classic message. Women are the gatekeepers for sexuality. Women need to make sure that a couple stays pure before they get married.
Yeah.
Common teaching. Yeah. And she asked the question, do you believe that? Did you were you taught that in church? And did you believe that? And then she compared women who said yes to women who said no. And guess what? The women who said, yes, I believe that, they have less satisfying sex lives.
Wow.
Because when you teach women, he can't control himself. He is biologically designed by God to want sex 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He can't help it. It's up to you to put the brakes on and make sure things don't go too far. And she spends years and years and years and years in that mindset.
Yeah.
How do you expect her to turn on a dime the day you get married and do a 180 and now be enthusiastically throwing herself into sex? It's ridiculous for us to expect that. But we as men, unfortunately, have not been taught that we need to do things differently. We're then taught that it's now women that need to change. So you need to be completely in charge of your sexuality beforehand and have no interest. And then when you get married, you need to do a 180 and be your husband's porn star so that he's like happy all the time. Right. Instead of saying, it's, I feel so sorry for Christian women and how they've been taught. Yeah. So as a man, you can say, you can show if you're a pre-married man, if you're engaged, you can show your future wife, hey, I am in control of my sexuality. I have a God-given sexuality. Yeah, it's strong. I'm a young man, but I am in control of that. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I want to honor you and I want to honor our God. I don't expect you to be the gatekeeper. I expect us to both work to do what we think is right. And teaching our sons to be men who respect women, who have control of their sexuality, who don't load it all off on women, but they take charge of their sexuality too. That's a perfect way we can help with women.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, teaching our sons, I love that. Teaching them to respect and be almost reverse the script, rather than women being gatekeepers of sexual purity, teaching our sons to be the guardians of it, right? Because they are being watchful over their own, like you said, sexuality. They can do all things through Jesus. They can have we've been given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind or self-control. And so rather than the spirit of fear, which we're teaching our boys, hey, don't avoid eye contact with pretty women because you can't handle it and you're going to sin.
Yes.
And I saw on Facebook a while ago, there was a pretty big Christian men's, group on Facebook. And the leader of it posted this post that said, what was it? It said, if you are breathing and you have two balls, then you have a lust problem. Yes. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're telling me that our identity is one of lustful, gross sinners when Jesus came to set us free and we can do all things through Jesus. I'm not going to identify by my sin. And I do not like being told that, yep, all men are just lust-filled, sleazebags.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So we can talk a lot about that one too, because I've got a lot to unpack about that. There's a whole chapter in the Good Guy's Guide about lust. And how we have got it so incredibly wrong. Yeah. Do you mind if I kind of name some authors and some things that have been put out there that are harmful? Is that okay? I mean, like the classic one is the Every Man's Battle series. This is lust is every man's battle. That is the mentality that's out there. In the book, Every Man's Battle, the authors actually say, we see the reason for the propensity of sexual sin among men. We got there naturally simply by being male. Their mentality is that if you are a man, you are sinful by nature. God created you to have this problem that you will have your entire life. You will never get over it. You will just have to live with the fact that you will always be in chains, but just control it by not looking at women. Yeah. That's what they teach us. And it's like, how did this get into a Christian market and we swallowed that lie? Oh, yeah. Do we believe in the sanctifying power of the Holy Spirit? Do we believe in the renewal that comes in whoever is in Christ is a new creation? Right. What happened to that verse? Do we not believe that Jesus Christ can renew us and strengthen us? Do we not believe that the Holy Spirit dwells in us, that we are the temple of the Holy Spirit? Do we not think that we can have a healthy male sex drive without being a lust-crazed monster? Right. It's ridiculous. I mean, in one of the companion books to Every Man's Battle, Every Heart Restored, they actually say men just don't have that Christian view of sex. I mean, wow. These are Christian books saying men don't have that Christian view of sex. And the issue is this. So what we do is we teach men, okay, this is this uncontrollable thing you will have and it will be your thing for your life. So therefore, don't look at women. Bounce your eyes. Don't look at women. Well, what that's saying is that instead of saying, hey, maybe the way I'm looking at women is wrong and I need to look at women differently, it's saying, no. Women are really just sexual objects for my pleasure, but I'm just not going to indulge in that. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? The difference there? Yeah. And we talk about this a lot in the book. There's a whole section on what lust is and what lust isn't. Because a lot of guys are trapped thinking, I noticed a pretty girl. Yeah. And now they feel, oh my gosh, I'm such a sinful, horrible person because I noticed how pretty she was. Like she walked by and I was just captivated by her beauty. And oh my gosh, I need to go, get a whip of cords and flagellate myself because I'm such a sinful, horrible man. There I go lusting again. You noticed a pretty girl. Like that's that's male. You don't think that she notices Chris Hemsworth when he rips his shirt off in that movie? This is just human sexuality. But we're so ashamed of it that we equate it with lust. And having normal, healthy sex drive and lust, they're not the same thing. But in the Christian resources, we constantly conflate them. I mean, again, I'm going to keep bashing Every Man's Battle, but there's a thing in Every Man's Battle where it talks about, levels of lust you might do. And it's like, maybe you've watched a woman as she goes up the stairs ahead of you, or maybe you've done this or done this. And then it goes this list and it says, maybe you sat in your rental car outside of a gym and watched girls bouncing in and out and masturbated in your car. It's like all these things. It's like, I just think of that Sesame Street thing. You're like, one of these things is not like the other. It's like, right. There's a difference between having a healthy male sex drive and lusting. How did we think the two are the same thing?
Yeah.
Right. And to me, the key is this: it's objectification. That's when it turns to lust. When it's not, I'm noticing how pretty she is. I'm noticing her beauty. It's not about me noticing her. It's, I am now saying she is something that exists for me and my pleasure. I'm going to, fantasize about what might happen with her. I'm going to think about her. I'm going to undress her in my mind, or even I'm just going to linger on her for my own personal enjoyment. That to me is sin. Now I've crossed the line.
Yeah.
And the reason it's a sin is because, I am seeing the image of God in another human being, and I am demeaning them to an object for my own personal use and pleasure. Yeah. That is the horrendous sin of lust. And that's why we need to attack lust. The problem is the way the church talks about it is the church makes it sound like the sin of lust is when a man's eyes come in contact with parts of a woman's body.
Yeah.
As opposed to what's going on inside a man's heart. And that's what needs to change. Because right now we got a double-barreled problem. We got normal guys who feel guilty over having normal male feelings.
Yep. And
they feel guilty and terrible. But then we got guys who are really honestly lustful guys who are doing things and they're treated like, well, that's just what I'm like. I can't help it because that's the way God made us. And they get a free pass. Yeah. That is ridiculous. And that needs to stop.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what happens then we have this perfect storm in a marriage, because a man can end up feeling like, my sex drive is bad. It's sinful. I don't want to express it too much, even in the context of my marriage. But then also we have wives who, as we've already talked about, their own messaging is suppressing their sex drives too. And because our wives seem like they don't want it, it feeds the same lie to us that, oh, I'm just being really selfish if I do want it. And so there's a dynamic that I coach my men into, to be like, okay, don't squash your sex drive. Don't suppress your desire for your wife. The Bible is full of permission to want your wife. I mean, Proverbs, one of my favorite verses, says, let her breast satisfy you at all times. And may you forever be intoxicated by her love. If that's not admonishing me to really, really want my wife a lot, then I don't know what is. But at the same time, let your desire be really high, but let your neediness be super low or non-existent.
Oh, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah. And I've found that to be a really key, eye opener for guys, to help them be like, oh, wow. Okay. So how do I get there? Right. Because the tendency is to just try to suppress our desire. Then we feel like we're just scumbags because I can't suppress my desire. I get bitter and resentful towards my wife because I'm not honoring the own healthy desire that I have. And I think it's her fault. It's all a big problem. Mm-hmm. So you kind of going back to this idea of libido and sex drive. And you mentioned the idea that, it seems like we think we have this belief that women just have a lower sex drive or none at all or whatever. You have in your book, you talk about this concept of mental load.
Yes.
Right. And you mention that may have more to do with this whole low sex drive thing than we realize. What is that about?
Yeah. So basically what mental load is mental load is the logistics and the planning and the being responsible for sort of stuff. So every task also has a mental component, right? So in terms of even just things around the house, like the laundry or that sort of stuff, there's tasks you have to do on a regular basis, but there's also the planning, organizing, making sure it gets done, supervising, make sure it's done correctly, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the issue is that in most households, the wife is the one that's really carrying all that load. So like, Johnny's soccer practice, the fact that his uniform needs to be clean, wear his cleats, getting the birthday present for Julia's friend because they're going to a birthday party on Saturday. All those things, the wife takes on a disproportionate amount of that. And so it's like, their brains are going in a million different directions all the time. They're thinking about all these things. There's no room for them to think about sexy time because they're juggling 50,000 balls, of all these things that are going on in their life. And a lot of guys don't even realize that they're letting their wife carry an unhealthy share of that kind of load. And so what I sort of talk, and what happens is most guys, they say, yeah, you know what? I need to help out more around the house, or I need to do more around the house. First of all, mistake number one is I need to help out around the house more so that I'll get more sex. Okay. That's preached. I've seen people on YouTube. I saw one guy and he was saying like, just turn the dishwasher on. Don't even load it. Just turn it on because she'll hear it and she'll think you're doing dishes and that'll make her sexy.
Except then she's going to find out that you lied to her.
Well, no, even if she doesn't find out, you're telling him to lie. How can you call yourself a Christian when you're telling the guy to lie? But anyway, whatever. So you don't do it because you want sex, because that's pathetic, right? No woman's going to say, oh, he washed the dishes, so I'm going to have sex with him. It makes me so hot for him. It might get you pity sex, but that's not what we really want, right? No. But so you don't do it because. But in contrast, let's imagine a husband who owns his share of what's going on in the house, right? He sees the sink's full of dishes, and he knows his wife's busy getting their kid ready because they got a test just tomorrow that they didn't study for, and he knows she's working on that. So he sees it, he takes care of it.
Yeah.
He makes sure it's done, right? A lot of guys are housework blind. Like they'll walk past a mound of housework or clothes or something because they haven't trained themselves to see it.
Yeah.
The kind of husbands who see what needs to be done and they get it done, and not just the task, but like, you don't even need to worry about this because I got it, right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like whatever it is. Like maybe it's the issues around household finances. Maybe it's the issues around, like there may be some task in the house that you just want to own. For me, like laundry's my thing, right? She doesn't worry about anything. Like it's just, she throws it in the hamper and it's done. Yeah. She doesn't have to remind me, Whereas a lot of guys sort of give me the list. They want a list. Give me a list. Give me a list, honey. Give me a list. And they think they're a hero now because their wife gave them a list and they did all the list. They ticked all the boxes off. And now my wife doesn't want to have sex with me tonight anyway, even though I did all the things on our list. What's wrong with her?
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with her is you did a bunch of stuff, but she was also working at the same time. And meanwhile, she's the one that's got all the logistics, all the guilt, all the worry, all the concern. It's all still in her head.
Yeah.
You didn't own anything. You just did a bunch of errands for her. And I don't want to be my wife's errand boy. I don't want a list. I want to say, hey, what's fair in this household? Let's sit down. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to get done in this house. What's going to be yours? What's going to be mine? And I'm going to take my stuff. I'm going to own it. And you don't need to worry about it. And, and we'll divide it in a way it's fair for both of us. And then I just get it done.
Yeah.
Now, contrast those two men, a man who does the dishes so that he can get sex, okay, versus a man who honestly owns his side of things. He does the dishes because guess what? He's an adult. He dirties dishes. He feels it's his responsibility to clean them up afterwards because he dirtied them, right? He's part of a team. He knows that we're a family. We make mess together. We do things together. Life is stuff. All these things have to be done. And I do my share in this team. What woman's not going to want to sleep with a guy like that? Right? That's what a woman wants. That's what a wife wants in a husband who she's attracted to because He's a willing participant in this team, and he shoulders his load. He doesn't whine about it. He doesn't need to be, told to do his chores like my 15-year-old son. He's on it.
Yeah.
That's what a wife wants.
Right. And that, I mean, you're talking about stuff from like related to the chapter in your book. Sex sort of begins in the kitchen,
but not why you think.
Yeah, but not why you think. And when I saw that chapter title, it was funny to me because I produced a little course a while back that about different marriage lies that we believed, and one of those lies was sex begins in the kitchen, because for what you're talking about, because what happens is, okay, so we're not strong enough or man enough to manage our lust problem on our own. We need our wife to manage that for us. We are not strong enough to be happy and joyful and confident on our own. We need sex from our wife in order to feel that way. And we are not man enough and adult enough to just get our crap together. We need our wife to tell us what to do. In the secular world, it would be a different word than crap, but the guys tell guys all the time, get it together. So basically, we've entered into marriage as in this mom and boy kind of relationship. Yes. And we wonder why our wives are turned off at the idea of having sex with us at times, and like you said, it's not always because a guy is doing something like this. Sometimes there's areas in the wife that need to be healed, but very often that's the dynamic that we end up creating with all of this. So let's say, well, how would you say a guy can shift that dynamic? Maybe he's been doing the dishes because he read a book out there that told him, if I just need to serve around the house more, it's going to make my wife want me. He's been doing those things. Let's say he's been trying to buy her flowers. He's been sending nice text messages. He's been massaging his wife's feet, whatever, but there's still he still doesn't feel wanted. What does he do at that point?
Oh, I think, that's a whole other podcast we could talk about, but I think that you're talking about, letting your desire for your wife be there, but but managing instead your expectations.
Okay.
I think is highly important, because if you really, really desire your wife, but she doesn't feel a sense of, I have to do this.
Yeah.
But she knows you honestly desire her. And if she says yes, if she says no, well, whatever, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Women are attracted to that. Women are attracted to a guy who's confident in his sexuality, who wants her. But, if you say no, well, that's fine. That's good. Like the lust message is one of the most huge killers of libido for women. The idea that all men struggle with lust, because it's paired with this idea of you as a wife need to have sex with your husband so he won't lust after other women.
Right.
Right. So this makes men look disgusting to women. Yeah. So they don't want to have sex with them. A lot of men have said, they've gone to their wives and said, you know what, like, this is a teaching that's out there. Have you believed that you have to have sex with me so that I don't lust after other women? And their wives will say, yeah, that's what I believe. He's like, what I do with my heart is up to me. Like, you don't need to feel that pressure. You don't need to feel that load. Like, I am going to be faithful to you, bodily and mentally, regardless of what you do. Now, I want to have an amazing, hot, enthusiastic, mutually pleasurable sex life with you.
Yeah.
But if you don't have sex with me, that is not on you what I do with my body and my mind. Right. And conversely, we hear the exact opposite taught from Christian circles all the time. Like, there was one situation really recently where Focus on the Family were talking about pornography and pornography use and how it's rampant among Christian men. And the person said, I wonder if the real issue is that women are not having enough sex. Huh. And I heard about this from a woman who had who emailed my wife because she had just gone through porn recovery with her husband. He confessed he'd been using porn. They were finally getting to a place of healing. And then she was told by Focus on the Family, maybe it was all your fault.
Wow. Because
you didn't put out. That's why he went to porn. When a guy turns to porn, it's because a guy has issues he needs to work on, not because his wife didn't have sex with him that night. We need to own that as men. We need to stop offloading it onto women. Right.
Yes.
So getting to the point where you honestly, you know what? I love you. I want this to honestly be something that's good for both of us. You get to that point, it will change your sex life dynamic completely. We have a guy's story in the Good Guys Guy we talk about too. And he talks about that too. He described himself beforehand. It was almost like he was one of the kids to his wife. She had to manage him as well as the kids.
Yep.
And he said, and we had sex, but it was pity sex. It was mommy kiss my boo-boo kind of sex. Right.
Yeah, right.
And he said, when I owned my stuff, when I took my share of the mental load in the household, when I became confident who I was as a man, and I didn't have expectations for her, but instead I wanted to bring to her, our sex life took off and was amazing. And that's what I would say.
That's so good, man. That's that growing in that confidence, and which allows and goes hand in hand with a lessening of expectation. Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. But what that sometimes requires is being able to like grow a pair and be able to withstand some rejection or saying no. So a lot of times guys will stop initiating and they think they're removing the pressure, but it's still there. It's still there. And what I've found, you kind of have to rip it off like a Band-Aid. So you got to maybe try to keep initiating, but learn how to be okay when she says no, instead of going and pouting, retreating into your corner, getting bitter, fighting, arguing, begging. You've got to get stronger, basically.
I 100% agree. That's a whole other podcast. But what I will say quickly is, I think that in society in general, but even more so in the church, we have not trained men to understand their own emotions. We have trained men to be emotionally stilted. Boys don't cry. Like the only emotion you're allowed to feel as a man is anger. Right? And when that happens, what happens, I've seen it happen in so many men, is all of our need for affirmation, for all these feelings and needs we have inside ourselves, we channel them all into sex. Because like we started the podcast, all men want sex all the time. So it's a socially acceptable place where we can get those needs met. So we take our needs for validation, our needs to feel like a man, our needs for self-confidence, our needs for all these things. We channel them all into sex. And so when our wife says no, it strikes at the core of who we are as men. It's like taking an axe to the very root of the tree. What we need to do is we need to take a step back, and we need to say, hey, I need to actually get emotionally healthy first. I need to be in the place where my needs for affirmation, self-confidence, my sense of manliness, all these things don't come based on how my wife treats me, but they come based on my knowledge of where I stand in Christ, who I am as a man, my sense of integrity within myself, because I know my emotions, I'm at peace with them, I keep them under control, I take every captive thought to Christ, but I'm from that place of strength. Now I come to my wife with the offer of, hey, let's join together. Let's have a mutually great sexual experience. And when she says, you know what, I'm not feeling well tonight. I just don't, I got a headache, or I'm tired, or I'm too stressed about work tomorrow. We're like, okay, we don't take that as rejection. We take it as, she's tired and stressed, and she doesn't want to tonight because she's tired and stressed. And we're okay with that because, we get tired and stressed sometimes too.
Right.
And it doesn't assault us at the core of our being. But I think a lot of guys don't realize that they have taken their identity and they've merged it with their sexuality so intensely that being rejected sexually makes them feel like they are being rejected completely. And we need to get past that. We need to get past, and we need to be strong. And the first step, and again, it's a whole other podcast, is to get emotionally healthy. And we can't unpack that because it's too big, but that's where we need to get. We need to get to a position where we understand our emotions. We're cool with them. We're not afraid of them. We embrace them. We work them through, and we can come on to the side in victory.
Man, you are just preaching the message that resonates so deeply with me right there. I mean, in my book, that's the first third of my book is becoming a man of identity.
Yeah.
Because we tend, like you said, we wrap up our identity in our sexuality. And another way of looking at it, we wrap it up in our wife, right? So
yes,
if we're finding our identity in her, that's what I was doing. That's what I did for a large part of my marriage. I found my identity in my wife, and I can think of however many times I told her how it just made me, she made me not feel like much of a man because of XYZ. And the truth is, she should have no power to make me feel like a man or not, because she never gave me my manhood in the first place.
Yeah.
That's all from God. That's from Jesus. And so what you're saying, yeah, you're right. Like we just touched on a whole other topic here that maybe we'll have to do a part 2 in the future, because
sure.
It sounds like you have some amazing things to share about all of that as well. That really, in a way, is almost like groundwork and foundation work that needs to be laid, even prior to all of these sexual dynamics and everything that we're talking about, right? Because if we are going after this, but it's from that weak little inner world place, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's great.
Well, oh man, there's so much more I have in my head. I'll just say this. What you made me think of was Jesus. He stooped to wash the disciples' feet. He served them, and he wanted to love them immensely, just like we're called to do with our wives. But it says in that verse, it says before that, it says Jesus, knowing that he came from the Father and that everything had been given to him, then he got down low and washed their feet. And I think that's a large part of what we need. We need that first part of the verse to be applied in our lives. Who are we? I came from my Father. What is my authority? Like, basically, how awesome am I as a God-created man? And then this stuff can start to fall into line a little bit better. Anyway, Keith, I want to really thank you for man, such a good conversation this morning. How can people find you? How can they get in touch with you, get involved in what you're doing, pick up a copy of your book, all of that?
Yeah. So you can get the Good Guy's Guide to Great Sex wherever books are sold, Amazon or, Christian bookstores, all that kind of stuff. Sheila is the sort of the spearhead of this organization. I'm sort of I wrote the Good Guy's Guide with her. She already has a really big platform. The website is called To Love, Honor, and Vacuum because she started when she was a mommy blogger, but now it's mostly about sex. We have a podcast, I think you mentioned earlier, called Bare Marriage. Well, I shouldn't say we. Again, it's mostly Sheila, but I'm on there a lot. Yeah. It's every Thursday it comes out. The last Thursday tends to be a guy's podcast. We call it the Start Your Engines podcast. I'm usually on with her at that point. So that's something to listen to as well. So those are some good places to find us. Awesome. And Sheila's To Love, Honor, and Vacuum and Bare Marriage. We're all over Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff too. So. Yeah.
Just type it in and it'll come up somewhere.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time with us this morning, Keith. I really appreciate it. I know that the guys who are listening to this are going to get a lot out of it. And, maybe at some point in the future, we can do a part 2 and start talking about these more emotional things that we were really getting into.
Oh, I'd love to do that. That'd be great.
Awesome. All right. Well, this was Matt Halleck with the Man Warrior King podcast with my special guest, Keith Gregoire. And the title of the book is The Good Guy's Guide to Great Sex. Pick it up. You will be blessed. Your marriage will be blessed. Your wife will be blessed. And we will talk to you guys again on the next episode coming at you in just a few days. This is Matt Halleck signing off and thanking you again for being a part of the Man Warrior King community. If you want more, head over to manwarriorking.com. And please remember to take just a couple seconds to subscribe on iTunes and to leave a 5-star rating and a review so that more and more men can join us as we become awesome. You are a kingdom man. Go out, take more ground, push back darkness. Remember, you bring value into your home, your work, and your circle. You are not a taker, you are a giver. Abundance is your atmosphere.